Okay, when I say don't trust me, I mean I will discuss a trust and I can talk about my trust, but I'm not a trust expert by any stretch of the imagination. So let me give you a little bit about what trusts do and how they can protect and save you some money. A trust is a three-party financial agreement or arrangement where one party, the trustor, gives a second party, the trustee, the ability to hold assets or property for a third party, the beneficiary. Okay. The Business Directory defines a trust as a legal entity created by a party, the trustor, through which a second party, the trustee, holds the right to manage the trustor's assets or property for the benefit of a third party, the beneficiary. Basically, a trust is a financial arrangement between three parties that hold assets for a beneficiary. There are many different kinds of trusts, but the general idea is a three-party ownership system wherein one party gives another party the rights to hold property or assets for yet another party who benefits from the arrangement. We'll go into a little bit more here. The parties in a trust, as part of its definition, a trust is comprised of three parties, the trustor, trustee, and beneficiary. But what are these three parts and how do they operate? They are as follows. The trustor is the person who grants the trustee control over their assets, estate, or property, and who creates the agreement. The trustee is responsible for managing the trust that the grantor, trustor, has appointed them over. They are the person who is in charge of managing the property or assets the trustor gives them to keep and are titled in the agreement. A beneficiary or beneficiaries are the people who receive the benefits of the trust agreement. They are given the property or assets by the trustee from the trustor according to the terms of the agreements. Now, the common types of trusts. There are many different trusts, and I'll go over more specifically what trusts I have and the reason I have them. But while the basic structure of a trust remains pretty much the same, there are several different types of trusts with different purposes and specifics. The five main types of trusts are living, testamentary, revocable, irrevocable, and funded or unfunded. But even beyond those, there are dozens of kinds of trust funds. Each different kind has its own uses and purposes, but most follow the same basic structure of a traditional three-party trust. A living trust, sometimes known as an inter vivos trust, is one made by a trustor grantor during his or her lifetime with assets or property intended for the individual's use during their lifetime. This type of trust allows the trustor to benefit from the trust while alive, but passes the assets and property onto a beneficiary using a trustee upon their death. With a living trust, you are generally able to avoid probate court, provided the trust is funded. Testamentary trust, often called a will trust, is an agreement made for the benefit of a beneficiary once the trustor has died, and details how the assets must be endowed upon their death. This type of trust is often instituted by an executor who will manage the trust of the trustor's descendants after their will and testament has been created. And a testamentary trust is irrevocable, cannot be changed or altered. A revocable trust, like a living trust, is created during the trustor's lifetime. It is able to be changed, terminated, or otherwise altered during the trustor's lifetime by the trustor themselves. It is often set up to transfer assets outside of probate. In this case, all three parts of the arrangement, trustor, trustee, and beneficiary, are often the same person who can manage their own assets, but will be given over to a successor trustee and other beneficiaries upon the original trustor's death. On the contrary, an irrevocable trust is one that a trustor or grantor cannot change or alter during his or her lifetime, or that cannot be revoked after his or her death. Because this type of trust contains assets that cannot be moved back into the possession of the trustor, irrevocable trusts are often more tax efficient, with little to no estate taxes at all. For this reason, irrevocable trusts are often the most popular, as they transfer assets completely out of the trustor's name and into the next generation of beneficiaries' name. However, a living trust can be either revocable or irrevocable based on its specifications. A funded or unfunded trust are trust agreements that either have funds, assets put into them, or do not. These trusts can be funded at any point, either during the life or after the death of the trustor. Credit Shelter Trust, also known as a bypass trust or a family trust, is a trust fund that allows the trustor to grant the recipients an amount of assets or funds up to the estate tax exemption. Basically, this allows the trustor to give a spouse or family member the remainder of the estate tax-free. These kinds of trusts are often very popular due to how the estate remains tax-free forever, even if it grows in size. Insurance trust allows the trustor to combine their life insurance policy within the trust, keeping it free from taxation on the estate itself. This kind of trust is irrevocable and doesn't allow the trustor to change or borrow against the life policy itself, but allows the life policy to help pay for post-death expenses on the estate. Qualified Terminal Interest Property Trust is, first of all, a mouthful. A trust that allots assets to different beneficiaries at different times, often in the pattern of being directed to a spouse upon the trustor's death and subsequently to children after the spouse's death. In this case, the children of the original trustor would receive whatever estate was left after the trustor's spouse's death. Charitable Trust is a trust that has a charity or nonprofit organization as the beneficiary. In normal cases, this type of trust would be built up during the trustor's lifetime and upon their passing be doled out to a charity or organization of the trustor's choosing, avoiding or reducing estate taxes or gift taxes. A charitable trust could also be part of a normal trust, wherein the trustor's children or inheritors would receive part of the trust upon their passing, with the remainder of the trust going to the charity. A blind trust is a trust that is handled solely by the trustees without the beneficiary's knowledge. These trusts are often used to avoid any conflicts between the trustees and beneficiaries or between beneficiaries. The uses of a trust, there are many different uses, whether it be to manage the trustor's assets during the life or after death, or provide a less taxed, easier way to endow estates to the beneficiaries. Depending on the terms of the particular agreement, a trust can also provide a way for trustors or grantors to benefit during their lifetime as well. Additionally, trusts are often used to manage property, assets, or estates being held for a minor or person incapable of being financially accountable until that person be deemed able to manage the assets themselves. Now, what are the benefits of a trust? While there are many different kinds of trusts with unique features and benefits for each, some of the common benefit of a trust include reduced estate taxes, allocation of assets into the desired hands, avoiding court fees and probate, protection from creditors, or even protection of assets among family members themselves. For conflicts or underage recipients, you are protecting your wealth and financial legacy, but more importantly, you have an opportunity to give back to your loved ones in a beneficial way. And because some common types of trusts help you avoid probate court, the assets within your trust may be able to get to the beneficiary faster than expected. Additionally, trusts can be used for privacy to keep wills private or estate planning. Still, one of the main benefits of setting up a trust remains the avoidance of high estate taxes or gift taxes. And I believe I went to Bankrate. What is a trust? They kind of spelled out the same things. What got me curious about it is you can also sidestep the costly attorney's fees and still create an effective trust using a site called FreeWill. FreeWill offers a completely free way to draft the necessary documents, and as its name suggests, you can also set up a will at no cost too. So I don't know, I have not been there, but I cannot tell you whether that's good or not. If you don't understand exactly what you need to do with a trust, then wording it may get you in some trouble. So I would rather take my chances and pay a little bit of money and get it done correctly. Okay, and then you want to think about a will versus a trust. What's the difference? They both transfer an estate to heirs, but only a trust can skip probate court. There are, like I said, there are many, many different trusts, and it depends on what you want to do with your trust. Okay, do you want to have a way to pass your assets on to your children in the event of your passing? Then you may only require a certain kind of trust. You would need to talk to a financial planner or a trust attorney to determine exactly what you need. I'm not here to try to convince you which way you need to go, because everyone's circumstance is just different enough that there's no way I could give any advice. I do have 2 trusts, and I have put the person I got my trust from through the ringer, both Albert and Richard. And as of today, most of my possessions are no longer my possessions. Most everything I own is now a part of the trust. We just signed some final documents today. What I have is an irrevocable, non-grantor, complex, and I can't remember the other one, spendthrift trust. I probably have the most expensive trust you can purchase, and there was a reason for it. I wanted the most security. Now I have a beneficial trust and I have a business trust. The beneficial trust actually is the beneficiary of the business trust. It owns the business and leases the business to the business trust. It gets complicated, but basically what it does is a lot of the profits of the business will be fed to the beneficial trust, limiting, because it is a business trust, there will still be some taxes, but it limits the amount of taxes that will have to be paid. The beneficial trust, which most people would want to get, protects all the assets from taxation, and you can't have active income as part of a beneficial trust. Passive income you can have all day long, and you can continue to grow it, and there would be no taxation on that until the money is taken out by paying a beneficiary. So let's say my estate is worth $1 million, and I've put everything into the estate, and I have rental property, or I have accounts that draw interest, or I have a stock account to where I draw dividends. That's all passive income. None of it is taxed. It will sit in that trust until you take it out. I take it out and I have a beneficiary and I give them $10,000 a month. They're going to pay tax on $120,000. That may be a percentage of what I'm taking into the trust. So it's not taxable until it's dispersed. But my trust pays for my home, it pays for the contents, it pays for maintenance, it pays for insurance, it pays the medical, it pays everything other than my food, my clothing, and my fun. If I go on a trip, if I can't figure out how to make it a business expense or a business trip, if I'm just going on a trip, then I would have to pay for that myself. It pays all the utilities, it pays literally anything and everything that's required to upkeep a home, the cars, the insurances, the maintenance, anything and everything to do with your home, your vehicles and all that. The trust actually pays all that. So you're paying for all that, but you're not being taxed on any of that money. It's not a benefit because the trust owns the asset. I can be in this home as a beneficiary. I don't have to rent, I don't have to do anything. The trust can pay for everything, and if I don't have any other source of income and I decide, okay, I've got to buy groceries this week or whatever, I can deduct that from the trust. If the trust owes me money, I can withdraw it from the trust. I can do a demand note and take that money out. Or if it's part of the trust assets and I want to give myself $1,000 a week, $5,000 a week, $20,000 a month, $50,000 a month, then what I will do, I won't use that money to pay for anything except my food, fun, and fashion. So why would I need that amount? I'll let the trust pay for everything, and I will take out what little I need to get by with the things that the trust doesn't pay. So it's very complex. Well, that's part of the things about it. It is a complex issue, but the reason that I wanted to do another video on trust, I don't have a special person here. Y'all have heard some of this before, but with us getting dividend payments, those dividends that if they're going into the trust and the account is in the trust name, you would not be paying taxes on it. If your dinar is owned by the trust, the trust is not going to be paying capital gains tax. The trust will never pay any taxes as a beneficial trust. The only time taxes will be paid is when a beneficiary draws from that trust. Okay? And please don't take everything I'm saying as 100% gospel. I could be wrong on something, and if somebody wants to point something out where I'm wrong, please do. But this is a very good way to not only not have to pay tax on a lot of the income, or to defer the tax until later when you withdraw the funds from the trust through a beneficiary. You have the added benefit of the protection. If my home is now in the trust, if somebody came up and they're walking up my steps collapse and it crushes them, and they spend 6 months in the hospital, and whatever could have happened, God forbid, but something very, very expensive, it could cost me my home and everything else. If it's in that trust, all they can get is whatever the insurance would pay. I mean, they can sue you, but you don't own the home, so that wouldn't really do them a whole lot of good. Now, not to mention the fact that you have no assets, so what are they going to attach? So there's some great benefits, protective and tax deferred. I get the question is, what if, can I cash out my dinar and then get a trust? You can, but you're still going to pay if you cash the dinar, you're likely to pay tax on it. I don't know if there's a way around that or not, because you've already exercised. What you'd want to do is get the trust and transfer most of your dinar into the trust before you cash it in. Get you enough to get the trust done. Get you enough to get your bills paid off and things like that. And yes, you're going to pay some capital gains on some of it, but then get serious with the rest. There's no need to be in a hurry. So once you know you've got the money, you cash your dinar in, or in the case of Willard Enterprises, if you are an investor with us and we go to pay dividends, we will work with you to get your trust done before we pay out so that you can change the name of it. We are not obligated to pay you at any specific point, and you'll have to discuss this with someone to make sure, likely an attorney. There is a major difference between tax avoidance, which is 100% legal, or tax evasion, which is 100% illegal. And I am not going to pretend to understand the complete differences between the two. So you would have to get with an attorney and discuss your options with them prior to doing anything. Don't take anything I've said as concrete evidence. I can only tell you what I have. And like I said, I have two trusts, a beneficial and a business trust. The business trust is owned, or not owned. The business trust is leased from the beneficial trust. So there are advantages there as well. And I don't want you to trust me on the information about trusts. Speak with somebody who knows. I'm not going to be able to answer all your questions. I am new to this as well, but I want to give you a little bit of food for thought. Get out there, read information on trusts, and again, don't take what I've said. I could have misquoted. I could have said something I didn't mean to say, but overall, there are tax benefits and there are protective benefits to having a trust. What you want to do, how you want to do it, what you want to protect, what you want to have as an outcome with your trust will dictate what trust you need. And they can run from that freewill.com site, or freewill.org, I'm not sure, from that site. So it ranges from free. I got one quote for the trust that I got a quote on that as high as $40,000. So it can run anywhere in between. The people that I got my trust from, be happy to share that information with you as well. But don't miss out on, okay, I know somebody that's got over 20 million dinar. They can go cash that in. Let's say it's 3-to-1. She's got $60 million. She goes to the bank, she gets it all, she sets her accounts up, and she cashes it in. At tax time, roughly 20% capital gains, long-term capital gains. If it was 20%, she's going to give Uncle Sam $12 million out of that 60. She just went from 60 million to 48 million. Well, she had a trust, and the trust owned the dinar, and she cashed in 20 million worth of dinar at $3. She would have 60 million in her trust fund. That trust now can pay her whatever she needs, what little she might need after paying for everything. The trust can own an unlimited amount of assets. So it now owns the home, it owns the cars, it owns everything. She wants to go buy a new furniture, for the trust would pay for it. She wants to remodel a room, the trust would pay for it. So the trust is spending all the money. So, but whatever she needs, she can take out as little or as much as she wants, and she would only pay tax on the amount she took out of the trust as a beneficiary. So there are tons of advantages. There may be disadvantages. I haven't figured out what those are yet. A trust is well worth investigating. Whether you want to get one or not is up to you, but know the facts, know the advantages to having a trust, and you just go from there. All right? That's about it. Like I said, I really don't have a lot of answers for you. I'm just putting this out there as some food for thought, and it's entirely up to you. So thank you so much. Y'all have a great evening, and God bless. Bye-bye.